Oh, and welcome to yet another week as we discuss Coach Prime's book, uh, Elevate and Dominate 21 Ways to Win on and Off the Field. Thank you very much for joining me on this lovely Friday. It's certainly a pleasure having each and every one of you join us every Friday on this series for the next 21 weeks. We're on chapter 3, right? So, but if you this is your first time, make sure you tune in and watch the previous weeks. We've discussed chapter 1 and also chapter 2, and we also discussed the forward page. So it's certainly important for you to join us and make sure that you're able to tune in uh, and join us as we embark on Coach Prime's new book. So this week, bear with me as we get ready to discuss chapter 3, right? But if this is your first time joining, we discuss Coach Prime's new book every Friday at 8 p.m. And we're just taking Coach Prime's advice in terms of annotating the book and also making sure that, we learn from it and we garnish from it. We've talked about chapter 1, chapter 2. If this is your first time, make sure you go back and review those chapters. And as it says behind me, be sure to make sure that you get a book and also just follow along going forward with your book. All right. So, chapter 3. So, chapter 3 was definitely an interesting one for those of you that have read chapter 3. Chapter 3 is all about beware your feet are, right? That's the title of chapter 3. And when you're talking about beware your feet are, and you just sort of like reflect on what that means exactly, and it's like what one thing I try to understand from that is just be present, right? So just be present wherever with whatever it is that you're doing. So as always, we go through this page by page and just sort of learn from it. So one thing that I've definitely learned from chapter 3 so far, and based on what Coach Prime said at the beginning, is he started that chapter by saying we're all incredibly busy between family, relationship, jobs, hobbies, and downtime. Right? We're always jumping from place to place. For many people, it feels like they're always running 15 minutes behind the next thing they're scheduled to do, right? So, and then he said, let me give you an advice. Slow down, take a breath, right? Be present and be where your feet are, right? So to me, I felt like that was really, really important to understand. Just saying, hey, be present, slow down, take a breath, and just be where your feet are, right? So he then he said, look, I get it. We all want to be great at everything. Great parents, great spouse, great workers, great friends, great students, and all that and more, right? And most of that is achievable, but we must be careful and mindful of our priorities, right? And then he later talked about the Bible verse and stuff like that. So when I sort of read that opening paragraph, it was just really important as we were navigating this book. Just understanding, it's important for us to be present, trying to elevate and dominate, right? Later on, he said, uh, you know, after when he referenced the Bible verse and he said this is how it translated, put your best foot forward, right? Put your best effort, right, into everything that you do. And I think that's important as we navigate our daily lives. Just, you know, present our best selves, right? And one thing that he also said later on as we flip the page over was, you should always take the, like, nothing is darn important, right? And if you can sort of read that in your Coach Prime voice, how he's just going to enhance it and emphasize that, nothing is like darn important, right? Right? That should always take a backseat to family and relationship, right? With stuff like that. So basically, one thing I sort of like is like, regardless of whatever it is that you're tackling, right? Nothing should take a backseat to your family and your relationships. Like we hear all the time, nobody, like we hear all the time, nobody's on their deathbed, right? Wishing they had spent more time in the office, right? A dying man does not say, "Oh man, I wish I had more time to spend on that project." Right? I wish I had more time to spend sending that memo, or I wish I had more time engaging with my boss. No, it's all about family and your immediate relationships, right? So later on, uh, one thing that he said that was really important was just in being what our feet are is just when you're at work, be at work, right? When you're at home, be at home, right? So that way we make sure that we're not scattered brained, right? I think that's one thing a lot of us tend to do all the time. Is just we got a lot of stuff going on, and we tend to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, right? Something that he also said in along that page is, and sort of annotated was. Uh, I'm a good one to study, right? When it comes to being where my feet are, remember, I played professional football and also Major League Baseball, right? Sometimes they collide, right? And all and I had one occasion where I suited up for both on the same day, right? And I think along this line, one thing that he said he sort of did to mitigate that was when he was playing baseball, right? He didn't talk about football, and when he was playing football, he didn't talk about baseball. So ensuring that he's able to focus and streamline was important to him and his success, right? you know, he later said, you have to set priorities, right? Setting those priorities should be part of your daily life, but it's vital to know that you can be in two places at the same time. Ain't no way. Like they say, ain't no way, Jose. Like you cannot be in two places at the same time. So it's important to set priorities, in life. So the other thing, going over to the next page that he said was, he referenced like for our coaches, right? I tell them if you miss a recital or a football game or a basketball game for your kids, I will fire you, right? And that's one thing that he himself started to adopt, but he said he got it from one of Arians and the box and a coach, right? And as we were talking about Coach Prime wanting to be our mentor, this is one thing that we said in previous week. Is like, hey, the mentors also have mentors, right? So that statement that he referenced in this book, he also picked it up from somewhere, and he said, even Arians and the Buck, they won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl championship. So it's like regardless of whatever is important, right? It's important for you to make time and be with your family, because whatever it is that you're trying to tackle as it relates to work, whatever the case might be, family is who you're doing it for, right? So it's important for you to make sure that you're listening to them, you're engaging with them. So the other thing that Coach Prime said along that book, if you're just joining us, we're analyzing Coach Prime's book, and we're on chapter 3. So make sure you get your book and join in along. So on page 29, that Coach Prime talked about, and I highlighted was he said, look, I'm not asking you to cheat on your job, but you don't want to cheat on your family either, right? Family is important, right? When it's time to be a parent, be a parent. When it's time to work, do your work, right? So, just being able to separate those and just, making sure that you're there for your family is one thing that I certainly appreciate there. And the other thing that he said was everyone is conditioned to let work inundate everything in their life. Work, work, work. Then fit in other stuff somewhere here, maybe there. And in some cases it might be our culture and the society that we live in, where we're sort of just engraved in just working, 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 working. But sometimes you just have to learn, right? To do something different, right? To do something different. So the other thing is that he said, just imagine a different way of doing things, right? Why not put your life before work, right? When you schedule your family first, trust me, there's still plenty of time to work, right? So that's definitely something that resonates with me. And he later said, keep your priorities straight, right? So in wanting to elevate and dominate, it's important for us to keep our priorities straight. So the sub segments that he talked about is just plan your time, right? And time your plan. Right. So when I read that and reading along, um, you know, he said something that I definitely that definitely resonates. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? But he said his little twist to that statement was plan your time and time your plan, right? Certainly a different take to of word choice to achieve the same thing. Is definitely interesting go to there. One thing that he also said as we move along to the next page is visualization is important, right? For me, there's a statement that I go by in terms of like dream big and in vivid colors. I sort of got it from one of my mentors slash board of director. It's just dreaming big and in vivid colors. And in vivid colors means you have to be specific in your dreams, right? And make sure, hey, this is how you want it to look like. This is how you want it to go, and you have to be as like explicitly just make sure that you're as specific and detailed as possible in your dreams. And also it allows you to then visualize it, right? Like he said, visualization is important. When you're able to visualize, and because you're specific, you sort of know what to do and what not to do and how to navigate things, right? So later on in that page, one thing that he said was visualization is a powerful man, right? It's only one of the highest form of belief, right? It's like visualization is powerful, man. It's one of the highest form of belief. And we just talked about it. When you're able to visualize where you're trying to go and what you're trying to elevate to and dominate to, right? Then you're definitely a step further than most people, right? As it relates to that, right? So it's definitely something that we should try to do at all times, right? The other thing, as we flip over to the next page, uh, is one thing that he said that was, is he referenced how he sort of like plan his wardrobe in advance, and that also enables him to build an efficient system and stuff like that, and planning and time management and stuff like that. Something I remember we used to do in college, when we're watching the football games on the weekend. My colleagues and I, would just sit down, and rather than just sitting down just watching the game, would take all our laundered clothes, and we just iron them, right? And it allows us to be productive during those hours of engaging with football, and then we iron them and get all our outfits ready for the next week of school and stuff like that. So if that's something that is ideal for you, please go ahead and adopt that. I think it's definitely good and useful for us to be able to garnish that, because one thing also is just it saves time, right, in the morning, right? Wanting to figure out, hey, I need to iron my clothes, I need to pick up my shoes, with this and that. If you already have everything set, it streamlines things for you. So moving on to the next page, one thing that he also said was there are always positives that occurs when you plan out your time, right? Then time your plan, right? And he later basically gave us some summaries, right? And he said, hey, here's some tips I recommend to help you plan your day, right? And he said, hey, set some clear goals, right? Break them down, prioritize your task, schedule, right? Leave time for flexibility, take time, take breaks throughout your day, and reward yourself, right? So those are just some of the key things he sort of suggested, and I think they resonate, right? It's important for us to set clear goals, even daily goals, in terms of, hey, this is what I would like to achieve today, right? Break them down, as we talked about in terms of breaking them down. Be specific, be vivid, right? In terms of what those goals entail, right? And also figure out what the tasks are to accomplish those goals, right? Schedule, leave time for flexibility. So it's important for us to be agile, right? And be able to pivot if necessary. Take breaks, mental breaks, and just relax throughout the day. And also, when you accomplish it, reward yourself. So that's definitely important. So the next sub topic in that chapter, he is avoiding the parent trap. Right, Coach Prime talked about avoiding the parent trap, and one thing that he talked about here is basically most important issue of being an adult is spending time with your family. Right, it's like in wanting to elevate and dominate, it's like, who are you doing this for, right? It's like it's important to spend time with your family, uh, and he said, although it's easier said than done, one thing that is can be an hindrance for most people, right, is phones, right? And he said, put the darn phones down, right? And if you know Coach Prime and the way he sort of conducts his athletes now, also it's like they're not allowed to bring phone um, into the room, like the lecture halls, or whenever he's giving like his morning message and like the team meetings and stuff like that. That also enables those guys to be present and to be where their feet are, right? And so that way they're not distracted, at those meetings. So when we flip over to the next page, right, something um, that he said was, and I sort of just highlighted this, uh, you know, is like he was referencing the importance of like raising your kids, right? And he talked about some of the things that he's told his coaches in terms of like their family responsibility. And I sort of start this when he said, "Get your butt home, right? Have dinner with your family, right? Get to your kids' game, practices, recitals, competition, and plays whenever possible, right? So it's important, ask them about their lives, read them a story, do something silly, make them laugh, then get your butt up in the morning and do it all over again, right? So this is certainly important. And he said he made sure his team of coaches are aware of this. And I think that's really important as we sort of try to navigate this world and wanting to elevate and dominate. It's important for us to know who we're doing it for, right? And knowing him, he also talked about some of the key hurdles that people are faced with. And he said, I know you feel the pressures of finances, but I guarantee you those kids will rather have dedicated time with you instead of anything you buy them. I think that's really, really important. A lot of us out there, we work, 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 thinking, we're trying to buy this and buy that for our kids and give them this and give them that. When the most valuable time, right, that a lot of kids remember is time. The most valuable thing that a lot of kids remember is time, right? Because when they're sharing that memory with their kids and their loved ones and their friends, are like, oh yeah, my dad came to that game with me. My dad is always on my game, right? And my dad is the coach coaching us, right? My dad is was there at my recital. My dad was there at my read along. My dad was there at my competition, my this and that. And you can sort of see how the kids that don't have their parents at any of those functions, how it sort of affects them, right? Because they don't have anyone there to support them, to sort of love them through that journey of life, right? So regardless of how many PlayStations you buy them, those are just fillers, right? The fillers, that your time, can definitely not replace. So just being there is important. No matter the type of job you have, I think it's important to be there, right? Um, and then one thing that he said later on is like, the reason why it's important to be there is because your kids are going to sense it. And I think we just talked about that. Uh, so later on, He said, it's important as parents to know that you don't ever have to be perfect, right? You will never be perfect, but you do have to be present. And I think we just talked about that, the importance of just being present in your family's life, like in your kids' life. And also, you need to be that role model for your children and not some model playing a role. That's deep. Right? If you know Coach Prime, you'll probably be like, hey, that deserves a round of applause, right? So let that resonate. You need to be that role model for your children, right? Not some model playing a role. That's really really important, right? The other thing that Coach Palm touched on that I really enjoyed was, it says it's not the easiest thing, right? Being in the spotlight, right? Being there for your children the way you need to be, right? And he also referenced some people that he thinks were tremendous fathers. He talked about LeBron James, Denzel Washington, Master P, and stuff like that. So one thing along that page 35, that he said that I certainly, enjoyed and sort of annotated was, to be great at something, you must be there. You have to be like-minded and intentional, right? Nowhere is more important than with your family, right? So regardless of whatever it is, it's important for you to be there, right? And even when you're there, you should understand that nowhere is more important than your family, because for a lot of us, our family is our why, right? Why are you doing this, right? Why are you doing this? So if your why needs your attention, then you should definitely understand that that should be more important going forward. So when we flip over to the next page, one thing that I certainly enjoyed here, um, was how he emphasized how he tries to give each of his kids, special one-on-one attention, and understanding that they all need different things from him and stuff like that. So when the subsection within chapter 3 that we're also going to be talking about is winning the day, right? Coach Prime here started by saying most of us are dying and we aren't living, right? I'm going to repeat that. Most of us are dying and we are not living, right? Um, and he said most of us are dying and we are not living. And he later basically explained what he meant by that. He said, I'm not talking about someone with an illness or disease, right? I'm talking about someone who's 100% healthy, right? But they're just going through the motion of life. They are not productive, right? So meaning you can be alive, healthy, but yet you're dying, right? You're dying because you're just going through the motion. Life is just passing by you by, right? And you're not being productive, right? Because you don't have a plan, right? And you're not even close to reaching your potential. You're dying, right? So one thing that he also said that I sort of resonated with was, like, the people that are dying, right? They look around, right, and they're upset. They're upset with people that are actually living. Like, the dying folks are upset with the people that are actually living, right? They're jealous, right? They want to be living also, but it's almost like they don't know how, right? And when you sort of look at this book, it's like, when you read this book and you sort of reflect and you garnish some of these things, it's like, hey, this is something a mentor would tell you, right? Hey, don't let life pass you by, right? Need to make sure you have a goal, have a plan, and work towards it, right? So, and when we flip over to the next page, and one thing that he said was, about winning the day was, I'm a planner, right? But understanding that not humans are perfect, he later said, I'm not so far down the street, right? Coach Prime also lose track of the task at hand, right? But he knows where his feet are, right? And he's going to dominate the now. And for those of us that have heard Coach Prime speak multiple times, you definitely understand when he says, hey, dominate the now. And I think that's really important for us to try our best. And whatever it is that we're doing, let's dominate the now, right? He later on said, "How do you win your day?" Right? It's all about the attention to detail and the passion for your purpose. For me, when I read that, it sort of took me back to something that I've always one of my mantras is profession and passion. Right? Profession and passion is those are my two P's. Right? But for him, is he's talking about attention to detail and the passion for your purpose. Right? So he sort of gave us later on an insight. He said, people see the big touchdown, right? But football players live in a world where their stance, their footwork, and their hand placement make a difference, right? So every little thing counts, right? Every little thing that you try to do on a daily basis definitely, and those can be the task, right, that you're doing, right? And it counts, right? So that way, when the big win comes, right, and for you, people are not gonna see, right, the task that you've been doing and you've been struggling with and you've been manipulating and and engaging with, right? They're just gonna see the the win, right? And that's okay because at the end of the day, you're going to be in a position to win the day, right? So later on, in that page 37, he's talking about, why are you doing what you do, right? Why is it important to you? That's your purpose. The thing that that's fueled by passion, right? So we talked about it earlier. It's like, what's your why? For a lot of people, their why is their family, right? So what's your why, right? And it's important for you to make sure you understand your why, because it says passion is what drives us, right? It's what gets us out of the bed in the morning, right? It's what gets you excited about the next day. It's the thing that makes us the best we can be, right? So it's important for us to be passionate at everything we do and understanding our why, right? And he also said passion will keep you motivated because you're more likely to stick with it, right? And the same thing goes with understanding your why, right? Because your why in most cases are usually beyond you, right? It's usually beyond you, right? So one thing I also said to end the chapter was when when you are that passionate about anything, it's going to bring you more joy and fulfillment in your life, and you will be living and not dying. And it's important for us to go about our daily life and showing that we're living, right? And we're making sure that life is not just passing us by. So that way, we're not one of the people that are healthy, right, and alive but yet still dying, right? So, as always, our segment every Friday is just 30 minutes. But before we end, let's take a look at just some of Coach Prime's takeaway for chapter 3, right? The first one is put your best effort into everything that you do and concentrate on the task at hand. The second one is have a plan for your day so you don't waste any opportunities, right? The third one is visualization is one of the most powerful form of belief, right? The fourth one, if you have kids, be present in their lives, right? And the fifth one is once you know how to be where your feet are, the biggest task is winning your day, right? So thank you very much for joining us. Once again, that's chapter 3. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you put a comment, right? And make sure you subscribe to our page and join us every Friday as we take on and analyze and just have a conversation around Coach Prime's book, um, you know, Elevate and Dominate, 21 Ways to Win on and off the Field. Until next Friday, be sure to win your day every single day. And also make sure that you're where your feet are as you're on your way to elevate and dominate. It's certainly been a pleasure. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.